The weird glitch. Zach 7 was not like other students at Central City University. His blue skin and 3 eyes made him stand out in the crowded halls. But that was okay. He was an alien exchange student after all. It was a normal Tuesday morning. Zach 7 sat in the back of his human history class, tapping away on his alien tablet. The teacher droned on about something called the Industrial Revolution. Zach 7 tried to pay attention, but Earth history was so boring. Suddenly, his tablet made a weird noise. Bleep bloop this. Zach 7 frowned. That was new. He tapped the screen, but nothing happened. Then, the tablet went dark. Oh no, Zach 7 whispered. He needed that tablet for all his classes. Just then, the screen lit up again, but instead of his usual homepage, there were strange symbols flashing across it. Zach 7's 3 eyes widened. He recognized those symbols. They were from the secret Galactic Council language. Zach 7 looked around nervously. No one else seemed to notice. They were all focused on the teacher or sneakily looking at their phones. Zach 7 pulled his hoodie over his head, trying to hide the glowing tablet. The symbols on the screen started to move. They formed shapes, then pictures. Zach 7 gasped. He was looking at blueprints for massive spaceships. But these weren't normal ships. They were covered in big guns and scary-looking weapons. A word flashed across the screen. Earth. Then another. Destroy. Zach 7 felt his heart race. These were plans to attack Earth. But why? Earth was just a small, peaceful planet. Sure, humans were a bit weird, but they were nice. They didn't deserve to be destroyed. The bell rang, making Zach 7 jump. Students started packing up their bags. Zach 7 quickly shoved his tablet into his backpack. His mind was racing. What should he do? As he walked out of class, he bumped into Sarah, his human friend. Her curly red hair bounced as she turned to look at him. Hey, Zax, want to grab some lunch? She asked with a smile. Zach 7 opened his mouth to say yes, but then stopped. He needed to figure out what was going on with his tablet first. Sorry, Sarah. I have to check something. Maybe later, he said. Sarah looked confused, but nodded. Okay, sure. Everything all right? Zach 7 forced a smile. Yeah, just alien stuff. See you later. He rushed off to his dorm room, leaving a puzzled Sarah behind. In his room, Zach 7 locked the door and pulled out his tablet. The scary blueprints were still there. He scrolled through them, his 3 eyes getting wider and wider. These ships were huge, and they had weapons he had never seen before. Zach 7 felt sick. He was just a student. He wasn't supposed to see this kind of thing. What if he got in trouble? What if the Galactic Council found out he knew? But then he thought about his human friends, about Sarah and the nice lady at the coffee shop who always remembered his weird alien drink order, about his teachers who worked hard to help him understand Earth stuff. He couldn't let them be hurt. Zach 7 took a deep breath. He had to tell someone. But who would believe an alien student who said he found secret plans to destroy Earth? Just then, his tablet made another weird noise. Bleep bloop bist. A new message popped up on the screen. It was in the Galactic Council language, but Zach 7 could read it. Test run of black warships complete. Earth operation to begin in 30 Earth days. Zach 7 felt his alien blood run cold. He didn't have much time. He grabbed his tablet and ran out of his room. He had to find Sarah. She was smart. She would know what to do. As he raced across campus, he didn't notice the small blinking device that fell out of his backpack. On a ship far above Earth, a red light started flashing. Someone knew that their secret was out, and they weren't happy about it. The countdown to save Earth had begun, and Zach 7, the alien exchange student, was right in the middle of it all. A tough choice. Zach 7's heart was racing as he ran across the university campus. His blue skin was turning a pale shade of turquoise from stress. He needed to find Sarah fast. He spotted her red curly hair near the robot cafe. a popular hangout spot for tech students. The cafe was filled with small serving robots that beeped and whirred as they delivered coffee and snacks. "Sarah," Zach 7 called out, waving his 3 arms frantically. Sarah turned, her smile fading when she saw Zach 7's worried face. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Do aliens have ghosts?" Zach 7 grabbed her arm. "We need to talk. Somewhere private." They found a quiet corner in the cafe. A small robot rolled up, its screen showing a smiling face. "Beep boop. What would you like to order?" "Not now," Zach 7 said, shooing it away. The robot's face turned to a sad emoji as it rolled off. Sarah leaned in. "Okay, spill. What's going on?" Zach 7 took a deep breath. "You're not going to believe this, but..." He pulled out his tablet and showed her the blueprints. Sarah's eyes widened as she scrolled through the images. "What am I looking at here?" "Black warships," Zach 7 whispered. "The Galactic Council is planning to attack Earth in 30 days. Sarah laughed nervously. "Come on, this has to be a joke, right? Like one of those alien pranks you told me about." Zach 7 shook his head, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly. "I wish it was. But this is real, Sarah. Earth is in danger." Sarah's face turned serious. "But why? We haven't done anything." "I don't know," Zach 7 said. "But we have to do something." Just then, a group of students walked by their table. They were laughing and talking about a party. Zach 7 watched them, feeling a heavy weight in his chest. These humans had no idea their world was about to change. Sarah noticed his look. "What are you thinking?" Zach 7 sighed. "I don't know what to do. If I tell the authorities, I could get in big trouble with the Galactic Council. They might think I'm a spy or something. But if I don't..." He looked at the happy students again. All of this could be gone. Sarah reached out and squeezed his hand. "That's a tough choice, Zach's, but I think you know what the right thing to do is." Zach 7 nodded slowly. "We have to tell someone. But who would believe us?" Sarah thought for a moment. Then her eyes lit up. "I have an idea. My uncle works for the government. He's always talking about how we need to be prepared for anything, even alien invasions. People think he's crazy, but maybe he'll listen to us." Zach 7 felt a spark of hope. That could work. But how do we reach him? "He lives in Washington, D.C., Sarah said. "We'd need to take a trip." Zach 7 hesitated. "But what about our classes, and how would we explain this trip?" Sarah grinned. "Spring break starts tomorrow, remember? We could say we're going on a road trip. It's not even a lie." As they started to plan, neither of them noticed the small drone hovering near the cafe's window. Its camera was focused on Zach 7's tablet. Miles away, in a secret underground base, a group of shadowy figures watched the drone's feed. "The alien knows," one of them said. "What should we do?" The leader, a tall figure hidden in darkness, spoke. "Follow them. If they try to expose our plan, eliminate them." Back at the cafe, Zach 7 and Sarah were excitedly planning their trip. They had no idea they were now targets. As they left the cafe, Zach 7 felt both scared and excited. He was about to go on a real Earth adventure, but a small voice in his head whispered a warning. Was he making the right choice? What if he was putting Sarah in danger? He looked at Sarah, who was animatedly talking about what they would need for the trip. Her eyes were shining with excitement. Zach 7 made up his mind. Earth had become his second home. These humans were his friends. He had to protect them, no matter what. As they walked across campus, the sun was setting, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and purple. Zach 7 looked up at the stars just beginning to appear. Somewhere up there, the black warships were waiting. But Earth wasn't defenseless. It had something the Galactic Council hadn't counted on. Humans like Sarah, who were brave, kind, and always ready to help a friend, even if that friend was a 3-eyed, blue-skinned alien. The adventure was about to begin. and Zack 7 was ready for it. Telling the big news. The old car rumbled down the highway, its engine making weird noises. Zack 7 looked nervously at Sarah, who was driving. "Are you sure this car will make it to Washington, D.C.?" Sarah patted the dashboard. "Don't worry, old Betsy hasn't let me down yet." Just then, the car made a loud pop. Zack 7's three eyes widened in alarm. Sarah laughed. "Okay, maybe she's feeling a bit tired today." After a long drive filled with junk food, weird Earth music, Zack 7 still couldn't understand why humans like songs about broken hearts so much, and lots of anxious planning. They finally reached Washington, D.C. The city was huge, with tall buildings and important-looking people rushing around. Zack 7 pulled his hoodie lower, trying to hide his blue skin and extra eye. "Where's your uncle's office?" Zack 7 asked. Sarah pointed to a big white building. "There, but we can't just walk in. It's the UN headquarters. There's lots of security." Zack 7 gulped. "So what do we do?" Sarah grinned mischievously. "We sneak in, of course." Using Sarah's uncle's old security badge, which she borrowed from its house, and some clever distraction techniques, Zack 7 pretended to faint, causing a commotion. They managed to slip into the building. They found themselves in a long hallway with many doors. "Which one is the meeting room?" Zack 7 whispered. Suddenly, they heard voices coming closer. Sarah quickly pulled Zack 7 into a small closet. They held their breath as people walked by, talking about boring Earth politics. When it was quiet again, they peeked out. A sign on a nearby door caught their attention. "Emergency UN meeting. Global security." "That's it," Sarah whispered excitedly. "They must be discussing important stuff in there. It's perfect." They approached the door nervously. Zack 7's hand shook as he reached for the handle. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah nodded. "It's now or never, Zack's. Earth's future depends on us." Taking a deep breath, Zack 7 opened the door. Inside, a group of serious-looking people sat around a large table. They all turned to stare at the two intruders. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" a stern woman demanded. Sarah's uncle, sitting at the far end, stood up in shock. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" For a moment, Zack 7 froze. All these important humans were staring at him. But then he remembered why they were here. He stepped forward, lowering his hood. Gasps filled the room as they saw his alien features. "My name is Zack 7, he said, his voice shaking a little. "I'm an exchange student from the planet Zorbax, and I have urgent news about a threat to Earth." The room erupted in chaos. Some people laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others looked angry. A few reached for their phones, probably to call security. "Please, listen to him," Sarah shouted over the noise. "It's not a joke." Her uncle stood up. "Everyone, quiet down." "Sarah, explain what's going on." Zack 7 pulled out his tablet. His hands were shaking so much he almost dropped it. I found these plans. The Galactic Council is planning to attack Earth with black warships. We only have 28 days left." More laughter. Someone muttered, "Is this some kind of movie promotion?" The stern woman spoke again. "Young man, alien costume or not, this is a serious breach of security. Guards." Zack 7 felt panic rising. They didn't believe him. Earth was in danger and these humans were going to throw them out. In desperation, he did something he'd never done before. He activated his tablet's hologram function. Suddenly, the air above the table filled with a 3D image of a massive black warship. It rotated slowly, showing its terrifying weapons. The room fell silent. Zack 7 spoke into the silence, his voice stronger now. "This is not a joke or a movie. This is real. I'm risking everything to warn you because Earth has become my home too, and I don't want to see it destroyed." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Sarah's uncle stood up. I think we need to hear more about this. In detail. The stern woman nodded slowly, her face pale. Agreed. Everyone else out. This meeting is now classified. As the room cleared, leaving only the most important officials, Zack 7 felt a mix of relief and fear. They believed him now. But what would happen next? Sarah squeezed his hand reassuringly. Zack 7 took a deep breath and began to explain everything he knew about the Black Warships and the Galactic Council's plans. Outside the room, in a dark corner of the hallway, a small spider-like robot watched silently. Its red eye blinked once, sending a message to a ship far above Earth. The message was simple. They know. Earth gets ready. The next few days were a blur for Zack 7 and Sarah. After their big reveal at the UN, things moved fast. World leaders argued a lot at first. Some didn't believe the alien threat was real. Others wanted to tell everyone on Earth right away. A few even suggested trying to make peace with the Galactic Council. We can't just sit around and talk. Sarah's uncle shouted during one heated meeting. We need to prepare. Finally, they agreed on a plan. They would keep the alien threat a secret for now to avoid panic, but they would start getting ready in secret. Zack 7 found himself in a lot of meetings. Important people in suits asked him tons of questions about the Black Warships and alien tech. He told them everything he knew, which wasn't as much as they hoped. I'm just a student, he kept saying. I don't know all the details of our military stuff. But he did his best to help. He drew pictures of alien weapons and explained how some of their tech worked. The human scientists looked both excited and scared as they took notes. Meanwhile, Sarah was busy too. She was put in charge of a team looking at the Black Warship plans. Her job was to find any weaknesses they could use. It's like a video game, she told Zack 7 one night when they finally had a moment alone. We're looking for the boss's weak spot. Zack 7 nodded, but he looked worried. I hope you find something. Those ships are really tough. As days passed, Earth's secret preparations grew bigger. In a hidden underwater base in the Pacific Ocean, scientists and engineers worked day and night. They were trying to make new weapons using ideas from the alien tech. Zack 7 visited the base once. It was amazing. Huge rooms full of strange machines and glowing screens. People rushing around, talking excitedly about plasma cannons and shield generators. In one room, he saw something that made him gasp. It looked like a smaller version of a Black Warship engine. How did you make that? He asked a nearby scientist. The scientist grinned. We reverse engineered it from your plans. It's not perfect yet, but we're getting there. Zack 7 felt a mix of pride and worry. Humans were learning alien tech really fast. But would it be enough? Above ground, things were changing too. People started noticing more military activity. Soldiers and vehicles moving around. Strange lights in the sky at night. Rumors spread online. Some people said it was just military exercises. Others talked about secret government projects. A few even guessed it was about aliens, but most people laughed at that idea. Little did they know how right they were. As the days ticked by, tension grew. Earth's leaders watched the skies nervously. They knew the Black Warships could appear any day now. They also worried about spies. What if the Galactic Council had agents on Earth? So they started being extra careful. Everyone working on the secret projects had to go through tough security checks. This made things hard for Zack 7. Some people didn't trust him because he was an alien. They worried he might be a secret agent. That's silly, Sarah told him one day when he was feeling down. You're the one who warned us. You're a hero. Zack 7 smiled a little at that, but he still felt bad. He missed his home planet, but he also wanted to protect Earth. It was a tough situation. One night, about 2 weeks after their big reveal, Zack 7 and Sarah were called to an emergency meeting. When they arrived, they found the room full of serious-looking military leaders. We've detected something, one general said, pointing to a big screen. It showed a blurry image of space. There was a small dot moving across it. "What is it?" Sarah asked, though she had a bad feeling she already knew. The general looked grim. "We think it's a scout ship, probably checking if we've spotted them yet." Zack 7 felt his heart sink. "They're coming," he whispered. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Sarah's uncle stood up. "Well," he said, trying to sound brave, "I guess it's time to see if all our hard work pays off." As everyone started talking at once, making plans and giving orders, Zack 7 and Sarah shared a worried look. The big fight was coming soon. Would Earth be ready in time? Outside, the night sky was clear and full of stars. Somewhere up there, the black warships were getting closer. Earth's greatest challenge was about to begin. Space bad guys get mad. High above Earth, in a massive spaceship that looked like a dark, angry cloud, the leaders of the Galactic Council were having a bad day. Admiral Zorg, a tall alien with green skin and 4 arms, paced back and forth. His face tentacles wiggled with anger. "How did the humans find out about our plan?" he growled. A smaller alien with a big head and tiny body spoke up. "Sir, it seems one of our exchange students, Zack 7, discovered our secret files and told the humans." Zorg's eyes flashed red. "That little traitor. I knew this exchange program was a bad idea. Letting our young mix with primitive species. Bah." He stomped over to a big window and looked down at Earth. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful from up here. But Zorg knew that down there, humans were getting ready for a fight. "What should we do, Admiral?" another alien asked. This one looked like a walking plant with eyes. Zorg thought for a moment. Then he smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "We'll send them a message they can't ignore." He turned to his communication officer, a blob-like creature with tentacles for arms. "Send a transmission to Earth, to all their devices, phones, computers, everything." The blob alien nodded and started pressing buttons with its tentacles. Down on Earth, something weird happened. Every screen, on phones, computers, TVs, even big billboards in cities, suddenly went black. Then a face appeared, a scary alien face with green skin and wiggling face tentacles. People everywhere stopped and stared. In New York's Times Square, in Tokyo's busy streets, in small villages in Africa, everyone saw the same thing. The alien spoke. Its voice was deep and scary. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. Your planet has been chosen for removal. You have 24 hours to surrender. If you do not, we will destroy your world. This is not a joke. This is not a movie. This is your reality now. Surrender or die." The message ended. Screens went back to normal. For a moment, the whole world was silent. Then, chaos broke out. In the secret underwater base, Zack 7 and Sarah watched as alerts started popping up on screens everywhere. "Oh no," Zack 7 whispered. "They're really doing it." Sarah's uncle rushed in, looking worried. "Did you see the message?" he asked. They nodded. "The president is about to make an announcement," he said. "We're going to tell everyone the truth now. There's no point hiding it anymore." On a big screen, they watched as the President of the United States appeared. He looked serious and a bit scared. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world," he began, "what you saw was real. We are under threat from an alien force. But I want you to know, we are not helpless. We have been preparing for this." He went on to explain about Zack 7's warning, the secret preparations, and the plan to fight back. "We will not surrender," the president said firmly. "Earth is our home, and we will defend it. Together, we will show these aliens that humans are not to be underestimated." As the speech ended, Zack 7 felt a mix of emotions. He was scared about what would happen next, but he also felt proud of the humans. They weren't giving up. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. A scientist ran up to them, looking panicked. "We've detected multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere," he shouted over the noise. They rushed to a big monitor. On it, they could see several large shapes moving towards Earth. The black warships had arrived. "They're not waiting 24 hours, Sarah's uncle said grimly. "The attack is starting now." Zack 7 felt his heart racing. This was it, the moment everything had been leading up to. Sarah grabbed his hand. "We can do this," she said, trying to sound brave. "We have to." Zack 7 nodded. He looked around at all the humans rushing to battle stations, preparing to defend their world. These weren't the primitive species the Galactic Council thought they were. These were brave, smart beings who wouldn't go down without a fight. As the first explosions lit up the sky, marking the start of the battle, Zack 7 made a decision. This was his fight too now. Earth was his home, as much as any humans, and he would do whatever it took to protect it. The space bad guys were mad and ready to attack. But Earth was ready too. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. Humans get smart. The sky was on fire. Black warships hung in the air like angry storm clouds, shooting beams of energy at Earth's cities. But the humans weren't giving up. Not by a long shot. In the underwater base, Zack 7 and Sarah watched as scientists and military leaders rushed around. Everyone looked scared, but determined. "We need to think of something fast," Sarah's uncle said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Our weapons aren't strong enough to break through their shields." Suddenly, a young scientist burst into the room. Her lab coat was messy and her hair was all over the place, but her eyes were shining with excitement. "I've got it," she shouted, waving a tablet. "I know how we can beat them." Everyone gathered around her. She pulled up a diagram of a black warship on the big screen. "See this?" She pointed to a small part of the ship. "It's their energy core. It's super powerful, but it has a weakness. If we hit it with the right frequency of energy, it'll overload and shut down the whole ship." The room erupted in excited chatter. Sarah's uncle turned to Zack 7. "Is this possible? Can their ships really be shut down like this?" Zack 7 studied the diagram, his 3 eyes wide with surprise. Yes, it could work. But how did you figure this out?" The scientist grinned. "We studied the engine parts you showed us. Then we thought, what would happen if we reversed the energy flow? Turns out, it causes a big problem for the ships." Sarah jumped up. "That's brilliant. But how do we hit them with this energy?" Another scientist spoke up. "We can modify our satellites to send out pulses of this energy, like a big EMP blast, but specific to their tech. And I bet we could make smaller versions too," Sarah added, "like guns that shoot energy pulses." The room was buzzing with energy now. People were shouting ideas, drawing plans, and running to their stations to get started. Zack 7 watched in amazement. Just an hour ago, things had looked hopeless. Now the humans had found a way to fight back. They really were smart. Over the next few hours, the base was a hive of activity. Scientists worked nonstop to modify satellites and build new weapons. Soldiers trained to use the new tech. And all around the world, other bases were doing the same thing. Zack 7 helped where he could, explaining alien tech and answering questions. He felt proud to be part of this team. As they worked, news came in from around the world. The black warships had destroyed some cities, but many others were fighting back with whatever they had. In New York, police helicopters buzzed around the ships like angry bees. In Tokyo, they were using high-powered lasers to try and blind the ship's sensors. "Humans sure are creative," Zack 7 said to Sarah as they watched the reports. Sarah nodded. "We're pretty good at thinking on our feet, especially when we work together." Finally, after what felt like days but was really just 18 hours, they were ready. "The satellites are in position," a technician announced. "Energy pulse weapons are charged and ready." Sarah's uncle turned to the room. "This is it, people. Our big chance. If this works, we can turn the tide of this war. He looked at Zack 7. Thank you for everything you've done. You're a true friend to Earth. Zack 7 felt his heart swell with emotion. Earth is my home too now, he said. I'm honored to help defend it. The uncle nodded, then turned to the main controls. All right then. Let's show these aliens what humans can do when we put our minds to it. He took a deep breath and pressed the big red button. Around the world, satellites turned towards the black warships. On the ground, soldiers aimed their new pulse guns at the sky. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the sky lit up with pulses of blue energy. They shot towards the black warships, wrapping around them like electric nets. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The ships kept firing. But then, one by one, their lights started to flicker. Their weapons stopped firing. And slowly, they began to fall from the sky. In the base, everyone held their breath. Had it worked? Suddenly, the communication screen lit up. It was Admiral Zorg, the leader of the alien fleet. His face tentacles were drooping and he looked shocked. How did you do that? He stammered. That's impossible. Sarah's uncle stepped forward, a small smile on his face. Nothing's impossible when humans put their minds to it, Admiral. Now about that surrender. As cheers erupted in the base, Zack 7 and Sarah hugged each other tight. They had done it. Humans had outsmarted the Galactic Council. Earth was safe. But as Zack 7 looked at the screen showing the fallen ships, he couldn't help but wonder, what would happen next? The big fight. The sky was a mess of falling ships and flashing lights. Earth had won the first round, but the fight wasn't over yet. Admiral Zorg's angry face filled the screens in the underwater base. You think you've won? He snarled. This isn't over, puny humans. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. A technician shouted, more ships incoming. Hundreds of them. Sarah's uncle frowned. I thought we got them all. Zack 7 shook his head. The Galactic Council always has backup plans. These must be their reserve fleet. Outside, the new ships appeared. They were smaller than the black warships, but there were so many of them. They started shooting at cities and military bases. Our pulse weapons won't work on all of them at once. A scientist said, we need a new plan. That's when Sarah had an idea. Wait, remember those tiny robot bugs we were working on? The ones that eat metal? Her uncle's eyes lit up. The nanobots. But they're not ready yet. We have to try. Sarah insisted. It's our only chance. Quickly, they put the plan together. They would launch the experimental nanobots at the alien ships. If it worked, the tiny robots would eat through the ship's hulls. All around the world, launchers were prepared. Zack 7 helped program the nanobots with info about alien metal. Ready? Sarah's uncle asked, his finger on the launch button. Everyone nodded. Here goes nothing, he said, and pressed the button. Thousands of tiny capsules shot into the sky. They looked like fireworks, but each one was filled with millions of nanobots. For a few tense minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The alien ships kept attacking. Then, slowly, things started to change. Some ships began to wobble in the air. Others started smoking. It's working. Someone shouted. On the screens, they could see the smaller alien ships starting to fall. The nanobots were eating through their hulls, disabling their systems. But the fight wasn't over yet. Some ships were still attacking, and they were headed straight for the underwater base. They've found us. Sarah yelled. We need to evacuate. As everyone rushed to escape pods, Zack 7 had an idea. He grabbed Sarah's arm. Wait, I can talk to them. Maybe I can buy us some time. Before anyone could stop him, Zack 7 ran to the communication station. He sent out a message to the alien ships in the Galactic Council's language. On the big screen, Admiral Zorg's face appeared again. He looked surprised to see Zack 7. Traitor, Zorg growled. You dare speak to me? Zack 7 stood tall. This attack is wrong, Admiral. Humans aren't primitive. They're smart and brave. They deserve to be part of the galactic community, not destroyed. Zorg laughed. And why should I listen to you? Because, Zack 7 said, I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Suddenly, more faces appeared on the screen. Other alien students who had been on Earth. They all started talking at once, defending humans and Earth. This caught Zorg off guard. He hadn't expected a rebellion from his own people. While Zorg was distracted, Sarah and her team finished their evacuation. The last group, including Zack 7, jumped into an escape pod just as the base started to flood. They shot up towards the surface, watching through the pod's windows as the battle raged on. But something was changing. Some of the alien ships had stopped attacking. Others were actually turning on each other. What's happening? Sarah asked. Zack 7 smiled. It looks like not all aliens agree with the Galactic Council. Some of them are on our side. As they reached the surface, they saw an amazing sight. The sky was full of ships, but now they were fighting each other. Earth's defenders took advantage of the confusion, taking out more enemy ships. Hours passed. The fighting got less and less. Finally, as the sun began to rise, the last enemy ship fell from the sky. Earth had won. In the days that followed, there was a lot to do. Cities needed rebuilding. A lot of alien tech had crashed on Earth, and scientists were excited to study it. But the biggest change was yet to come. A week after the battle, a new ship appeared in the sky. But this one came in peace. It was a delegation from other alien races. They had heard about Earth's brave fight and humans' quick thinking. They were impressed. We would like to invite Earth to join the galactic community, the alien leader said. As equals. The world celebrated. Humans had not only saved their planet, but had also found their place in the galaxy. As for Zack 7, he was hailed as a hero on both Earth and his home planet. He decided to stay on Earth as an ambassador, helping humans and aliens understand each other better. Sarah teased him about it. See, I told you our alien exchange student program was a good idea. Zack 7 laughed. Earth might not be perfect, but it was home. And he couldn't wait to see what adventures would come next.